For this assignment for Teach Now, I'm going to be talking about the importance and effectiveness of lesson planning, and I would like to share my learnings and understanding with the help of a few videos.
Classes is a constant challenge.
It's when the kids are bored and when they aren't interested in what's going on. Because then I have to reflect and think, okay, maybe it's me. Maybe I'm not presenting this in a clear way.
Today, Nicole is starting a new unit on writing personal statements for college. It's a critical set of skills her students need to master, and she's been working closely with her department chair to plan the lesson.
A lesson plan embodies what students are going to do throughout the lesson, what actual skills you're going to teach to students, and what students are going to do with those skills in order to master them.
So lesson plans are all about creating a purpose and some sort of a roadmap which will help us understand where we need to go, how we need to go, and how long do we need to stay at a particular place and before moving on to the next.
One of the first steps that I talk to teachers about when they're going to plan a lesson is really thinking about the end in mind. What do you want students to walk away from your class knowing? And that is your objective. So the objective is specific and skill-oriented, and it has to be measurable.
Specific, measurable, and skill-oriented objective gives the teacher a clear idea and direction about where they need to go and what is it that the class as a whole needs to achieve in terms of understanding and learning.
When I think about your lesson, the objective is you want students walking away from your classroom knowing what effective and ineffective strategies for personal statement writing are.
In my experience as a teacher, and also something that I've observed while observing other teachers take lessons, is that students of all ages need some sort of a framework within which they like to learn. While there should be enough scope for creativity and individual expression, having a broad framework, a clearly defined objective which helps them understand where they are moving and towards what they are moving, helps them keep very focused on their tasks.
Once an objective is clearly defined, the next step is to break down the lesson into manageable parts.
When I think of a lesson plan, I couch it in terms of a do now, a mini lesson, guided practice, independent practice, and then your assessment. And each chunk plays a part in achieving the goal that you've set out from your objective. To begin that lesson, you're going to have a do now. And in my mind, a do now is a focused way to invest your students in what you need them to do. When each piece of your lesson has a purpose and flows well and is related to your objective, there will be a natural transition. What do you think an effective do now for that lesson would be?
They have to compose at least 5 questions that they would ask somebody if they really wanted to get to know that person. Kind of just want to get them in the mindset of, what a good personal statement is.
To my mind, this is one of the biggest challenges that educators face. How do we break down a lesson into parts? How do we break down a unit into specific activities and instructional modes which would really make a lot of sense to them? Because breaking this big part into smaller chunks in a way that every part connects with each other and every part is extremely effective and also relevant to what the students are supposed to be learning is what makes a unit plan very, very effective. One needs to put in a lot of time and effort and thought into this.
The next stage of the class is the mini lesson.
This is your opportunity in the mini lesson to give specific details and information about what you want students to learn. A mini lesson could last from 15 to 25 minutes, and the mini lesson is really the crux of instruction. Teacher needs to teach a certain skill or an idea, and so the mini lesson is the teacher's opportunity to instruct and get that skill across.
So here we are at the most critical juncture wherein we're actually imparting instructions. So designing these lessons which encompass what are we going to talk about, how are we going to teach, what are the specific activities, what are the specific tools we will use. These are the components of a mini lesson.
To reinforce the content of the mini lesson, the next step is teacher-guided practice.
Guided practice to me is the teacher's opportunity to model and show exemplars. So students themselves are looking at models. They're not yet creating it themselves. They're just identifying what makes something effective.
So let's read this sample personal statement. Let's act as if we were going to accept or deny this person into our college. And then you have to tell me why, your reason.
Guided lessons and providing exemplars and models particularly is extremely useful while we are differentiating instructions to take care of the needs of students with special learning abilities, the English language learners, and other students with other different needs, because at the end of the day our goal is to reach out to every single student present in our class. Exemplars are also extremely useful as a scaffolding activity.
A well-designed lesson also includes time for independent practice.
Students are ready at that point to take what's been taught previously in your lesson and use it on their own to create what you want them to create, to use the skills that you've taught that day.
Independent practice by students is also an opportunity for teachers to observe these students and make and do formative assessments and get a first-hand idea of how much the students have learned, whether what they have learned is what we intended to teach in the first place, and are they able to kind of express or demonstrate their learning in the way we want them to.
Because now it is going to be your turn. After you have your possible topic, you are going to flip the paper over. Let's flip the paper over. Great. You are going to write up here your topic, the one that you chose, okay? And then you are going to compose your introduction.
At the end of the class, teachers should assess how well students have mastered the lesson.
So the do-yourself part or guided or independent work could be through a huge range of activities. It could be something as simple as writing, presenting a writing piece, creating a model, some sort of a craft activity, and these activities could be chosen basis the level, the grade level, and the interest and the profile of students. And now we come to the most critical part of the lesson planning process, and that is understanding how effective our lessons plan were. And this, to my mind, is the most critical part, because this is where I get to understand how effective I was and if there is any tweaking that I need to do in the future. Because one of the most important things about being an effective lesson planner is one needs to have an extremely high amount of flexibility and the ability to think on one's toes, because sometimes while you are in the class, the lesson just goes kaput. You thought of a particular activity thinking it would really interest, and for some strange reason it doesn't work out. So one needs to understand what is it that one can do at that very moment to change the mood of the class, to have better student engagement, to have everyone go back far more learned and informed than they were before the beginning of the class. So to sum up briefly, an effective lesson plan has a fixed objective, and all the activities and mini units, mini lessons are planned considering the larger objective in mind. An effective lesson has a mix of strategies, a mix of activities which keep students of all profiles and all kind of learning needs engaged right from the beginning to the end. There is enough scope for flexibility at any given point of time to alter strategies and alter activities, and there is an effective assessment built in at various points and also towards the end to understand finally how effective we were in imparting the lessons. I'd like to talk about now the usage of effective assessment techniques. There is a lesson or a unit that is taught to students is effective in the end only when we have a way of ensuring that students have actually learned what we started off to teach them. And this is where assessments come in. They could be formative, they could be summative, and the kind of assessment technique that you use would depend largely on the subject that you're teaching, the grade level, the profile of the students. Some easy and simple formative techniques could be written reflections. You could ask students to write a paragraph, an essay, or short sentences or phrases on what they have learned. It could be an activity in groups wherein they think, pair, and share. It could be the exit tickets. It could be general normal quizzes in class. There could be a lot of fun online tools that could be used for these, especially for designing quizzes and having them as a class activity. Summative assessments could be written multiple choice question, written quizzes, computer-based assessment, which could again be a multiple choice question, constructed response questions, analysis questions, and basically the choice, what you would ultimately choose would depend on the students and their profile, and what is it that was your objective at the beginning of the unit. I would like to end by saying that this particular unit has been extremely rewarding in terms of what I have learned, because ultimately we cannot reach our destination without really knowing first where we want to go, and second, what are the possible and the best ways of reaching that place. So this is what a lesson plan exactly helps us to understand where we need to go with our students, and devise ways and strategies by which we make that journey. And an effective plan also helps us understand how to cater to every individual student's needs, which is what current thought and current approach towards education focuses on.